Welcome to the Healthy Screen Habits Podcast. We are the first generation to parent while balancing screens, life, and family. Each episode features insights, tips, and takeaways to help establish safe, mindful habits while living your family's healthiest digital life. I'm your host, Hillary Wilkinson. Now, whether you're starting your parenting journey with a newborn or looking to connect with your teen on technology, this is the podcast for you. When you read my guest today's bio, you would think this guy is part superhero. He describes himself as having relentless drive and never-ending energy when it comes to fighting for the safety and protection of children. He's the founder of Protect Young Eyes, which is a leader in tech education and does presentations around the country teaching digital awareness. In 2019, his testimony in the U.S. Senate helped draft legislation of the Earn It Act, which is a significant bill helping to curb online child sexual exploitation. I am thrilled to introduce to the Healthy Screen Habits podcast, Chris McKenna.
Hi, Hillary. It's really fun to be here.
Excellent. So, Chris, in your bio, you include that besides your ceaseless store of energy, you have 4 amazing kids, and your other loves include running, spreadsheets, and candy, which I love the diversity of this description. So, and I have to ask the question that everybody is now wondering. What's your favorite candy?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm a big fan of Skittles are really big for me. I love sweets. I'm just a big fan of things with sugar, which praise God, I have a fast metabolism.
So you're a Skittles guy. That's actually what Skittles, I really wanted to know.
Yeah, Skittles, Twizzlers, and Oreos are going to hit the top 3 there. Those are good ones. So
very good. Very good. Okay. So Chris, like I said, I picture you half the time with a cape strapped on your back, and every good superhero has a story of origin. And so what I'd like you to tell us is what led you to start your organization, Protect Young Eyes?
Yeah, that's good. I have a professional background that includes a couple of significant pivots. So for 12 years, I was with Ernst & Young. And so I was a business risk consultant for Ernst & Young, worked with big companies, loved it, great job, traveled the world. The Lord then called me into full-time ministry. So I left the business world and became a full-time junior high youth pastor, because leading junior high kids is exactly the same as being a CPA. Not even close. But I was also in charge of church finance and large capital campaigns, just because they wouldn't let me leave that side of my world. Anyway, I share that because the time that I was a youth pastor was from 2009 to 2016. And that is the rise of portable internet. That is the rise of portable smart devices. And so, of course, junior high is right in that sweet spot. And parents were asking me a lot of questions around what's this new Snapchat? If you can imagine a world where Snapchat was new, or what's this app or that app? And so because I have a consulting background, I solve problems. I see problems, solve problem. That's just the way my brain works. That led to a closed Facebook group. I was doing research, dropping in PDFs. Here's what I've learned. Turned it into sort of an accidental organization because a lot of families started coming my way. You layer on top of all of that, Hillary, is that I have a history where I struggled with pornography for years. So I had this sort of background motivation after I had my own epiphany that I needed to leave that and talk to Andrea about it and totally come clean and get covenant eyes and get accountability into my life, right? I had been through all of that process. So it was a double motivation of, wow, parents have this need. Kids are carrying these risky devices. I don't want any of them to experience the devastation that I did from a porn addiction. We've got to do something. Like the convergence of those things came together to bear on Protect Young Eyes, which was really just a website to start off, which then led to schools saying, hey, come talk to our kids, and parents saying, hey, come talk to us. And that led to hundreds of talks until COVID, and here we are today. So
Right. That it makes sense where you hear your background as well as coming in with all the kids plus your children, and that leads your fuel for the fight,
That's right.
because that is what comes through most of all. I think in any of your posts and any of your deliveries, you do have a personal connection with the content, and so it makes sense to me that you do indeed have roots in the cause of having fought in the trenches and moved
Yeah.
forward. So I have to ask, what are some of your bigger concerns that parents are reaching out to you for?
There's just a general division I see right now between parents who allow and parents who have just hard stance won't, right? So there's this delay movement that I am trying to be a part of to delay the acquisition of smartphones and social media as long as possible. And that's a lot of the conversation that I'm having right now. So it's a conversation that has to have a lot of width to it, though, because there are parents who have said no, slow, or go. And I want to be a voice for all of them. I don't want to shame those who have said go, nor do I want to, seem like I'm overly, restrictive and the only way to be is to delay. There's a few exceptions where I would say, okay, maybe a middle schooler is ready for this or that. So there's a balance in this conversation because I want to cast a wide net.
Hmm.
Internet safety is a spot where there are some differing opinions. There are some things that to me are non-negotiable. Like I am never going to be convinced, because I understand adolescent neurology and I understand middle schoolers, that any middle schooler is ready for Snapchat. You can't convince me otherwise. Like that's a no starter for me. And there's a few others like that. But the things that parents are coming to me for in 2021 are not that different from the things that they were coming to me before, you know, this year. It's still pornography. It's still people that they don't know online. It's still the mental health aspect. Although I would say the mental health aspect, because now it's been made more complex with the isolation of COVID, has
Sure.
become a very complicated conversation because people want to put it right in the column of, well, it's the device that's causing this. And it's never that simple.
Right.
Depression and anxiety and suicide ideation are always extremely complicated issues that bring with it all kinds of baggage of family history and origin that are complicated by the accelerants in social media. So it's just a really complicated conversation.
I
So if there's,
Right.
yeah,
I always say there's a lot of overlap in these areas. There's not necessarily one root thing, but there's
yeah,
there's
yeah.
room for, it's kind of like a Venn diagram where you've got the overlapping circles.
Good way to say it. And so I would say COVID has really elevated both the screen time and the mental health conversation. But Hillary, they've always been there.
Hmm.
I think it's just that we are, I don't know why. It's almost like we're so busy that we almost require tragedy to pay attention to reality. Like we need something as massive as a global pandemic for us to realize that there are certain things in screens that aren't good for kids, or that certain types of kids who are spending 31,000 hours a year on average on TikTok that could be impacting them in some way. Really? Like we needed the pandemic to tell us that.
Right.
Those are the
I
sorts of
think
things that I scratch my head on.
so. I have to ask the number one question we get asked, and I understand no, slow and go, like you said, but when people come to you and say, "What age should my child get a smartphone?" Do you have an age?
I do not have an age. I
Okay.
have a minimum. So
Hmm.
there's a minimum that is involved in both the what is the right age for social media and what is the right age for a smartphone. I think no sooner than 15, but that's accompanied by other attributes. So the way that I have the conversation, and there's a whole post that we wrote on what's the right age to give my kids social media, and it starts with attributes. It starts with if I walk up to your son or daughter and stick out my hand and say, "Hi, I'm Mr. Chris. Nice to meet you." If your son or daughter can't kind of look me in the eye, can't kind of shake my hand, and can't kind of tell me his or her name, then he or she is not ready for social media. They need to be masters of the face to face before they are masters of the screen to
I
screen.
love that. I
There's
talk about
those, yeah,
I talk about that developmental. step happening with young children as well. You want your child to be able to physically do a block tower, placing blocks one on top of another before they go to a smart screen and are trying to do it on their.
That's right. I might even ask that young man or young woman, tell me three amazing things about you. If they can't articulate a bit of identity about who they are and what makes them them, then there's no way in heck that I want to throw them into a social media soup that is going to, like a marinade, go out of its way to attach its flavor of identity, which are all kinds of different identities, to that very pliable, shapeable, vulnerable heart of that young teenager, right? So there's some of those kinds of attributes that I ask on top of. And so if it's 15 and then you say no to some of those other things, then 15 is too young. Like 15 is the basement, the bottom
Right.
of that kind of conversation, which is totally countercultural to how we see these things today. And yet it's totally consistent with how we treat everything that kids qualify for in the physical world,
Right.
whether it's
Driving
college or
cars
driving or
Mhm.
anything, right? So it's just a big disconnect.
Right. Right. Thank you for that. And when we come back, I'm going to ask Chris for his top tips that families can employ for keeping all children safe. But first, we're going to take a little break.
Has life in a pandemic left screen use in your house out of control? As the world begins to return to normal, we can help. Visit healthyscreenhabits.org and scroll down to find a free downloadable tool called the Family Technology Plan. This step-by-step tool lets you make decisions as a family on what your new healthy screen habits will be.
Today, I'm speaking with Chris McKenna, the founder and CEO of Protect Young Eyes, which is an organization that shows families, schools, and churches how to create safer digital spaces. Chris, one of the reasons why I like the advice given on Protect Young Eyes so much is that you address these areas not only of behavior and family habits, but you also really get down to the nitty gritty basics of hardware. You were the first person I knew who spoke about the importance of the home router. And for those of us who are a little less well versed on computer hardware, could you explain what a router is and why is it important?
It is the most important digital device in any home. You're going to see the full force of my endless energy come out when it comes to this, because it is also the most underappreciated digital device in any home. It is the social distance champion before it was cool to social distance. Oh gosh, don't get me going on the router. It is the source of all of what we do online in most homes, right? It is
Okay,
the,
so it's kind of like the neck of the funnel. Is that what it does? I have to admit, I mean, for someone who is involved in
yeah,
healthy screen habits, I am remarkably unversed in
yeah.
the technical side of things.
There are two devices that are typically confused but are present in both homes, and or in most homes. That's a modem and a router. Sometimes those are two different devices. Sometimes that's one and the same device. A modem will take that cable signal where your internet service provider sends you the signal, and it'll turn it into something that your digital devices can use. And then the router takes that signal that can be used by digital devices and shoots it out around the house in a way that wirelessly can connect to those devices. So by controlling the source, you're controlling the access.
Okay.
Now, of course, that calls into question devices that can connect to the internet through data. Those would be smartphones and certain tablets like iPads that don't require Wi-Fi in order to get to the World Wide Web. That's
Okay.
a separate conversation where you need to have parental controls on the devices, right? So we talk about controlling digital access in four layers: the relational layer, the locational layer, the Wi-Fi layer, and the device layer. And all four are necessary in order to adequately protect internet ready kids.
It kind of reminds me of like dressing for the cold. You
There you
know,
go.
how you have to have your base layer, then your thermal layer. Then I'm sure I'm getting this wrong. All the outdoors people are probably going, that's out of order. But, and then the last layers, you want that like,
Yep.
weather resistant. So, okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for the quick tech 101 lesson.
There you go.
And there's a conversation, excuse me, there's a conversation that you have that is called the 10 before 10. And can you talk a little bit about that?
When it comes to the topic of pornography, which I am very comfortable talking about, ridiculously comfortable. My kids will tell you, they hear me say the word all the time, and they say the word all the time. It's no big deal in the McKenna house. But I want homes to have 10 significant conversations with their children before age 10. So it's just a catchy, quantifiable way to be reminded of the importance of multiple conversations around a topic that is usually not that comfortable. Whether it actually ends up being 6 or 8 is not as important as being reminded that it has to happen multiple times before the age of 10.
Got you. So it's not
Yeah,
specifically like 10 questions or 10
no.
anecdotes to have. It's more the repeated like visiting of the topic so that it becomes a comfortable conversation to have because ultimately what you want to do is you want to release the taboo around it so when your children do stumble upon pornography or do start having friends that are exposing them, whatever, A, they know what they're looking at. B, they know how to handle themselves. And C, they know how to come to a trusted adult. Hopefully, if you have enough of these conversations, when they stem from a place of calmness and conversation, then when you are thrown into that tornado of exposure that will happen, it is not an if, it is when, if you have a child who is on the internet, then they can come to you and expect a calm conversation as well. I like that a lot. Another one of the statements on your website reads, be a coach, not a controller. And what does that phrase mean? You've got these really great little catchphrase buzzwords that stick with me well, but I think like I kind of want to like tease that apart a bit, you know?
Well, it's interesting you say that, what you just said about teasing that apart a little bit, because we are in the process of what I think is going to be one of the most helpful things that we've ever created for families. And I've not told anybody this yet, so you're hearing it
Ooh.
first. And that is a section of our website that by age and stage walks through what I call the PYE way. And whether you're a preschool, elementary, middle, or high schooler, it's going to walk through age,
Okay, and
stage.
PYE stands for Protect
Protect
Young
young
Eyes.
eyes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And we're going to fit all of that into what we have come up with, which is called the Digital Trust Framework. So that phrase comes from the Digital Trust Framework. So after 1,100 presentations that we've done over the past 6 years, I've noticed that there's a pattern in families who tend to have kids who use technology well. And that pattern involves 5 things. It's copy me, co-play, curiosity, conversations, and coaching. And these are attributes that we describe in great detail in our Instagram account and also in our app. They are not described clearly on our website, which is the problem that we're in the process of solving. But that last one, to be a coach instead of a controller. So I tend to see things in columns and rows because that's how spreadsheets are
I was
organized.
going to
It's my
say you're a
CPA brain.
spreadsheet guy.
So things move left to right, right? I like frameworks. I like things that I can put things in that are sequential. The Digital Trust Framework encourages parents to live in the middle of a continuum that has 3 sections. There is a overprotective, fear-based parent on the left. There is an overly permissive, apathetic parent on the right. And then there is a parent who uses digital trust in the middle. And you build digital trust with those 5 C words that I just listed off, the last one being coaching. Kids know a parent and will always defeat a parent whose objective it is to control their kids online. And the reason for that is there's a reality that kids know more. And no matter what fence we build, if it's not built with a sense of care and of understanding and built with them, then they will continually tap on that fence until they find a weak spot. And
Right.
they will find a weak spot.
Right. It's that generational divide between
That's
digital
right.
natives and digital immigrants.
And kids want to work with a coach. A coach roots for their team to succeed. A coach says, I am in this and I am with you. I am for you and not against you. And when we try to use our authority to control kids with technology, we inadvertently chase them into the places we don't want them to go. It's the proverbial don't touch the wet paint. But if they know more about the paint than we do, imagine now we're doubly, doing the wrong thing here, right? And parents need to understand that whether you're 14 or 40, when someone tells you not to do something, what's your natural inclination?
Touch the paint.
Touch the paint, right? And so I want parents to see their role. We have non-negotiables, and ultimately we're the parent, but sit down and talk to your kids as if you're rooting for them when it comes to technology instead of just shaking a disappointed finger at them all the time.
Right. And it be stepping into that proactive role rather than the reaction. There are a few resources that I feel Protect Young Eyes is absolutely amazing in providing. And one of the ones I would feel absolutely remiss if we did not plug or share a little bit about is the Protect Young Eyes app. Can you explain what this is and what people can expect from it?
Yeah, thank you. This was our pandemic pivot. So when the pandemic robbed us of hundreds of presentations in about 3 weeks, we decided to pivot towards something that, what was so ironic about what happened during COVID is parents needed us more than ever, right? And we didn't have a channel for getting to them. And so we poured all of our remaining time and resources into building the Protect app, which they can find both in Google Play and Apple app stores. And it takes most of what we know and puts it into bite-sized little mini swipeable panels. Now over 500, it's growing every week. We're adding more and more all the time. It has an emergency section for tough situations around predators, suicide, sexting, and pornography. It has a trend section where we're dropping in updates that are happening, little videos. We have a whole section of videos that were produced with teens and young adults that parents sit down and watch with their kids. So there are some really unique aspects to it. I don't know of any other set of video resources that exist that you sit down and watch with your children that both talk to parents and kids about tough topics at the same time.
Yeah, and the videos are they're not the typical dorky videos. They're relatable. So, I mean, of course, your teenager is going to find, holes to poke at anything, but it does foster those conversations that you're talking about are so important to have. It is such an amazing, reachable resource that even addresses this concept of the digital divide that has become so apparent during the pandemic, where certain people have more access to streaming and internet capabilities in their own home or not. More people own smartphones than actual computers in their home. And so by creating the app, you have extended your reach to nearly, the world. You're doing it. One of the reasons why I love the Protect Young Eyes app is it delivers these really important lessons in snippets. It's not a huge investment of time. And I think we are all, we all feel compressed as far as how much time we can invest in things. And I think that is where Protect Young Eyes excels, is their ability to deliver a ton of information in a short amount of time. And another resource that I think does that amazingly well, I spoke about it on episode 2 with Smith Alley, is the Smith and Chris podcast. And
good.
Yes, you are the Chris of the Smith and Chris combo. And I love your format. I always tell people they're kind of like, I don't know if even this show is still on, but back in the day we used to watch like 2020 on Friday nights as kind of like a recap, a real
Yep.
quick recap of the week. And you guys, I say, are the 2020 of of the tech world, and because you
Oh,
cover
that's so
just
funny.
yeah, you cover all types of just little news bits that have happened in the tech world. And you get this this fascinating play between you and Smith, where you are kind of have the dad perspective of what's
Yeah.
going on, and Smith is the teenage voice. So you've got the digital native, digital immigrant. I just love it. I just love what you guys are doing.
Well, thank you. We enjoy doing it. He's a great guy. I know. I'm glad you could talk to him. And
Yeah.
I could see there was a temptation there for just a minute. And when you were describing the difference between us, to call me the old guy and not the dad, I could sense
Ah!
it there, Hillary. And that would have been okay. That's okay. So
No, I don't think I could call you the old guy without knowing that you're clearly a peer, if not younger than me. So it's okay. We are going to take a short break, and when we come back, I'm going to ask Chris from Protect Young Eyes to share his healthy screen habit so we can all get a little bit healthier with our own practice.
Hi, I'm Amy Adams from Healthy Screen Habits. I have the privilege of running book club, and we invite you to join us each Friday over on Instagram at Healthy Screen Habits, where we discuss books that will help us create healthy screen habits for a balanced life. We have a book that we do every couple months, and we hope you'll join us and enjoy and learn and grow with us.
We're back. I'm talking with Chris McKenna, founder and CEO of Protect Young Eyes. So, Chris, on every episode of the Healthy Screen Habits podcast, I ask each guest for a healthy screen habit that our listeners can put into practice in their own home. Do you have one?
I do. And it goes like this: worry more about values than time. And what I mean by that is, one of the most frequent questions that we receive is, Chris, what's the right amount of time that my kids should be spending online? Or what's the right amount of gaming that my kids should be doing? Or what's the right amount of Snapchat or TikTok? And people listening to this might be surprised. I hope they don't judge me too hard, but we don't really have hard and fast screen time rules in the McKenna house. We don't. Instead, I've asked myself, and Andrea and I have asked ourselves these questions. What are the attributes that we want to see in our kids without screens? So what do I want to see? I want to see a clean bedroom. I want to see regular showers. I want to see conversation happening at the dinner table. I want you to be a pleasant young man when you're hanging out with us, or young lady, right? I want to see a whole child. And I want to see those things. Do you get your homework done when you're supposed to? In the middle of a game, and I say, hey, could you quick take the trash out? Just pause Smash Bros for a minute. Do you say yes most of the time? If the answer to all of those sort of value-based questions, what do we value as a family? We value time together. We value taking care of our spaces. We value obedience. If those things are in check, and if you want 2 more hours on the Switch on Saturday, amen and hallelujah. I think we totally stress ourselves out as parents trying to hit a number. And there's a couple of reasons for that. It's easy and measurable. We kind of feed ourselves the lie that if we hit a certain number, we're being a good parent. When I think we're doing more digital trust damage than good, than if we took a values-based approach to screen time as opposed to a clock-based approach. So that's what I mean.
I like how you're considering the whole child and their experience, and because ultimately that is the person who is out there in the world as well. It's the whole child that gets put out there. They're not put on a kitchen timer for manners out in the world.
That's right. And now I want to say, because every single child is so different. That's what's so difficult about our space, Hillary, is that there isn't a prescription for a healthy internet family. There are tips and principles. And here's what I would say about the principle that I just communicated. it does not override what you know to be unique about your child. If you have a child with highly addictive tendencies, that you have seen even a small amount of screen time to be destructive to the whole child, then please do what's best for your kid.
Right.
And please adhere to 20 minutes. If anything more turns your child into a rage-filled alter version of him or herself, right? So I do want to caveat it a little bit with that, because there's such variability in how technology impacts children that I think for the most part, we can take a values-based approach, but there are edge cases for everything.
Well, I have an educator's background. I was an educator for years before starting our own family. And that's this whole concept of individuation in education, where you teach to the individual child. And that's what you're speaking to, where ultimately you do have this end goal result that you're working towards, but how you get there gets tailored based upon the needs of each individual child.
That's right.
Yes. Okay. If our listeners want to find out more about Protect Young Eyes, I will link it in the show notes, and perhaps they could go check you out themselves at protectyoungeyes.com. Thank you so much, Chris, for being here today.
You're welcome, Hillary. My pleasure.
For more information, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Healthy Screen Habits. Make sure to visit our website, healthyscreenhabits.org, where you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode. It's free, it's fun, and you get a healthy new screen habit each week. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you giving us a quick rating. It really does help other people find us and spread the word of healthy screen habits. Or if you'd simply like to tell a friend, we'd love that too. I so appreciate you spending your time with me this week, and I look forward to learning more healthy habits together.